What made you start the podcast? Because, like, I know that feeling of starting a podcast. It must have been like something that took a while for you to go. It's back in my head. I want to do it, and then it just finally snapped one day.
You know what I plan to do? Like, real life curriculum is supposed to be like a program to go into schools, isn't it?
Okay.
Like, I wanted to go in and like do something different, something that I weren't taught in school. But then I didn't want to do it no more, innit, basically.
Was there something about the education curriculum you didn't like and you felt like you wanted to adjust something about it, or was it just a passion for education essentially?
I just think like it needs adjusting. I think we're learning things that we don't necessarily need to learn. It could be substituted with something much better, and that will actually teach us life lessons that we need later on.
You didn't go uni? It's interesting because we're talking about knowledge today. I didn't finish my degree.
Oh yeah, before we start, there's a nice intro. Yeah, guys, just introduce. They know this is the Lyceum Podcast. I'm Riyad. Blah 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 blah. They know. Yeah, you guys go ahead and.
Yeah, I'm Tej. Been here before.
Yeah. You might recognise her a little bit.
Dion, first time, privileged to be here.
Yeah. I found Dion on Instagram. He has a podcast in Leicester called The Real Life Curriculum, as we just spoke about it. Really interesting content. You should definitely head out and check that. Great conversations, brings on that quite a diverse range of guests, I've noticed. PTs to business to real estate to just
everything. Real life,
yeah. But the questions you ask is very like in-depth questions. Have you always been like that, in the sense of you don't like surface level information, you really just want to see what the root behind the tree is, essentially?
I don't think I've always been like that. I think that's more like a last couple of years things as I've grown and learnt more myself. But like now, I just want to learn, innit? Like I like to learn off all different kind of people. I don't think someone can teach me something. Everyone can teach me a lesson, I think. So I just like to get down to the deep.
What was your school experience? Like, what was your relationship with school? Why didn't you want to go to the normal academic route?
It's just not for me, man. Like, if I went uni, I would have just partied.
But you're still smart. To be, like, you can tell you're intelligent to want to create a podcast around what you do.
Education.
Yeah, around education.
I had to educate myself. Plus books. I ain't gonna lie. I went into like a bookworm for like a year or two and just
any shout outs?
Constant.
Book shout outs?
There's a list, but
go on, talk to us.
But specifically, you asked about a quote, innit?
Yeah.
Ryan Holiday wrote a book called "The Obstacle Is the Way."
Obstacle is the way.
Yeah. That's the quote, man. Because I used to look at like challenges and obstacles as bad things, negatives, but really and truly, they're where I've learnt the most. There's where I've grown the most. So if I have an obstacle now or a challenge, I just look at it as something I'm going to learn from.
That's interesting.
I'm going to get better from that.
I definitely obstacles is like the idea of an obstacle can mean like something getting in the way or something to overclimb, isn't it? Like when you approach, I remember I read a quote, funnily enough, that said, I thought my whole life, once I get past this obstacle, life starts. Then I got to the end and I realised life is just one big obstacle. And that quote kind of gave me a lot of clarity. Like, okay, when you feel like a situation, once you pass a certain situation, you feel like your freedom is there, you're lying to yourself, because there is no freedom. Once you finish one obstacle, you've got the strength now to unlock the next one. It's like a game, essentially.
You don't want to be finished just there. We love the climb. Like, as human beings, we need an uphill challenge, innit? Like,
but do you like the fall?
Do I like the fall?
The fall.
The fall. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, but it's that silver linings thing. It's almost like a silver lining can't exist without the dark cloud. So good times have to exist from bad times, but those bad times have to have come about before. You have to figure out what the lesson is. People people almost enjoy pain sometimes after a certain moment of self-actualization, when they actually when they get realistic, you're almost ready for what is about to come.
Do you think education, or from your experience of reading, both of you, do you feel like, you know how sometimes you think in life you have to go through something bad to finally wake up and understand, oh my God, I need to get my stuff together? But can books just be that in itself? Like, you read and you realise like nothing catastrophic is happening to me, but so much is changing inside of me for some reason. Did you feel that with books?
I definitely think it can. However, I feel pain and trauma does much more. But
how would you separate the two?
From my own experience, when I first started like reading again, like after school, because I didn't really read too much in school. But when I started reading again and like learning certain things, it does good. It did well. It taught me a lot and it changed my mindset and made me want more. But it wasn't till I went through something a bit like pain and trauma and heartbreak that actually it made me go to that next level. Like I had to go through that to get to here. So it's all good, but I think you learn much more from the darker days, to be honest. I ain't gonna lie.
You definitely do. Yeah, because it's much more of a distinct taste, real life, isn't it? But like with books though, for me, just to be on the other side of your coin, because I agree with everything you're saying, if I had to defend a way a book can change you, is like, I feel like the worst thing we can do to each other as humans is betray each other. There's no wonder why religions, cultures, different practices always kind of in a hierarchy place betrayal as the worst thing, right? Because in your own life as an individual, you think you're living a certain life, you're comfortable, you're content, and then cool, we'll leave that to the side now. So when I'm with you, if me and you are good friends, we have a relationship, I have faith in you, you have faith in me. Cool. If you betray that, it's horrible, isn't it? This is how I think a book relates to that. Because if you have a certain view of life, you have faith in how you're living is good, and then you read a book, it kind of betrays your reality. You're like, oh, maybe my reality isn't what I thought it to be. Like, I thought I was clever, I thought I was smart, I thought I was going on to do great things, and I realized the only thing is I know nothing, I'm not as intelligent. Ever felt the feeling of the more you read, the more you learn that you have to read more?
Yeah.
The
more I know, the more I understand that I don't.
Exactly. And that's a painful feeling, I say. Yeah. Because it's like, when I go to a bookshop, I get a bit of a pain. I'm like, I can't read everything in this store, man. So, and it's interesting because I haven't moved, I haven't been punched, I haven't been heartbroken, I haven't been thrown off a cliff. I'm just sitting there reading, and all of this is happening inside of you. But from the outside in, it looks like I'm just doing this. You know?
So interesting. From my point of view, how I'd explain you to other people, I'd be like, Riyad's life is rich because his knowledge is vast. So he knows so much more about, like, the people that I know that are most depressed, most anxious, suicidal, they genuinely don't know enough about themselves, their brain, philosophy, psychology, why everything even does happen. They can't even pick it apart just yet, so they've not read enough. Whereas you know why music is harmonious, you know what, so you're able to find these little rich truffles in life, and it makes it worthwhile. So. But
on the last episodes, and you see my clips where I speak a lot about creativity, then I was in editing, I'm not sure do you ever go through your old footage again and realise, oh, I never thought of it like that. You kind of relearn yourself again. Yeah. I'm thinking creativity is cool because you have to create something, and if you're depressed and you're sad, you need to create ways to get out of that. Yeah. But there's intelligence. I'm not sure if I'm 100% true on this because, intelligence is able to, like, you can create and you can reverse engineer creations. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So, like, when you read something, you're learning how to reverse engineer your own problems. And then once you get to the bottom of how to create, you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you unravel yourself.
You unravel to ravel again.
Yeah.
So that's why I get what it means when it says one step back to go 2 steps forward.
Yeah.
Reverse engineering is as important as it is engineering. Think about people who build bikes. From a kid, what did they do? They used to take apart the bike and then put the bike back together. Yeah. And I think that's what education does when you, as you say, you learn.
Right now I'm in the frame of mind of mental health. I've just read, I've got a lot of women around me at the moment that have given me a lot of books around, like say PTSD, trauma, psychology. So I'm seeing everything from that point of view, just because that's the realm that I'm in right now. And that's very much the case, where you don't really want to admit, even when you learn about behaviours, things that are wrong maybe with you, or learn behaviours, habits, picking them apart maybe is like the difficult part, where they don't really want to...
You have to be honest with yourself.
You have to face maybe why, and I think even with men, like men's mental health is a big topic, especially right now. You really need to, like, men don't cry. So strange to me, like, that every single month a woman cries. A woman will go through the same cycle and realise that she's being irrational.
Do you think this is a society thing, or do you think this is a innate man or woman thing?
It's a big conversation. It's a hot topic right now. Like, why do men and women almost hate each other? It's a big misunderstanding constantly.
So many factors. It's never easy. As when I see people talk about it, they say this is the cause. It's not.
Yeah, I feel like that's why Andrew Tate is a hot topic.
So many, man.
So many things.
Yeah.
You didn't mention.
I think that's why it's a hot topic, Andrew Tate, because he started the conversation, and that's why I really adore the guy, because even if he's not necessarily right, which is what I like about both of your podcasts, is maybe what you just said, my opinion's constantly evolving and changing. I might not be right now, but let's at least talk about it, and then whatever we do learn, it's the most amazing thing about human beings ever.
No, it's true.
If we're to look from the outside in, we are just these beings that just talk and write and then evolved from talking and
It's
writing.
true.
And it's more, that's all that they do. We're these little
I think
things
you
on the
completely
earth
summed it up
that just
beautifully,
conversate. That's what we're doing right now. We just conversate and try and get to a better place of understanding, and we just do better and better, and hopefully do better and better and better.
And to add on top of that, so many times in town in Leicester, I sit and write, and I just love it. I'll sit there for hours and just look at people. One thing I cannot help is that I see people walking by, just non-stop. I don't know these people, but I look at them. They're not looking at me, but I'm looking at them. I'm like, whatever's going on in their head, like they have, it's like I was looking at little bubbles. Or in my student accommodation, I look at my window, I see all the other student accommodation rooms, and I look in their window, I'm like, they have their own matrix, their own form of knowledge, their own identities, and I'm like, who am I? It's just mind blowing. It's like that scene in Monsters Inc. You know when he's going for different doors. That's what it's like. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, definitely.
It's so interesting.
Have you seen the term Sonder? It's the realization that everyone that you pass by has a life as vivid and complex as your own. So what you said earlier about my heartbreak and my this and my that and my trauma and whatever has taught me a lot. Everyone's going through the same. Like the most at every given time, that they're like, no one knows what I'm dealing with right now because everyone seems to be fine.
So let me ask you a question. So when you look at other people in society or people or peers or people you don't know, do you look at it as competitively? Like, these are my competition. This is the people out in society. I'm trying to one up them, get above. Or is it like, they're going through everything I'm going through, therefore I could feel a bit more comfortable? Like, what perspective do you feel like you lean towards more? The competition style or the communion style?
Initially, the first. And now I think you can use that competition to your advantage. Where people don't know is where you're able to help. So where people maybe let themselves down, I could develop in that area to help you yourself. So by being better than you will now raise the ground, hopefully.
So by you attaining some form of power, you can give some power.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd rather let me have a moment of maybe being more well-read than you, but not to be better than you. So now I can bring you back up. Yeah, exactly.
See, I like that. But that's good, you know. Now it's making me rethinking my whole answer.
That's a really beautiful point.
I'd probably say communion, you know, because I think, and this is a recent thing as well. Before it was a competitive thing, like, but not in the way you've just described. Not in a good way. It was like, I want to have one up on you. Like, I want to be better than you for that, all the wrong reasons. But now, I'm just me, and I'm just trying to make people, like, as you say, we're all going through something. I just don't know it. So how can I judge you when I've got, you know what I mean, I've done wrong, I've got all this going on, I understand my own life, like, I need to understand that you must have something that you're going through. So I haven't got time to judge, I haven't got time to try and compete. I think it's a waste of my energy as well. I need to just focus on what I'm doing and be the best. But to
challenge you, doesn't competition make you better? Would you argue?
Say even judgment might hold up a mirror to you as well.
Yeah, so this is where it's like a split in it, because I'm trying to be communion, I want to be together, I want to, like, not judge, but again, when I do compete, but not in a way of like, I'm trying to get one up on you, just that I want to be better myself. Yeah, 100%.
It sounds like that better. Balance of competition on, what's the word? The survival of the fittest mindset versus what you're saying, like that community protection mindset. Whatever balances the two is what wisdom is. You know? Right. Wisdom is like the scale itself.
Capitalist society kind of mentality of trying to be the best.
Oh, I don't know, because I see this a lot. I see people always say competition is capitalist. No, because competition has been around before capitalism. Even sex is a form of competition in a sense. When a man woos a woman, it's a woman saying, come on, like, show me your competition. Yeah. They don't say it consciously, but there is a subconscious element to it. So competition is innate. It's not a social structure. It's not a political system. The reason why the capitalism even exists is because I think human nature gave capitalism that fire, you know? If we weren't innately competitive, where would capitalism be?
True.
It would be communists, isn't it? Like, all of us all equal, let's all have fun, let's all have fair. But what about the argument of greatness? Is greatness something competitive, like one person achieves all greatness, or do you see greatness as someone who gives back to all the people, like a Muhammad Ali kind of style, or a Mayweather style?
I think you should always give back, you know. So I think, yeah, at first maybe not, but when you get to a certain level or a certain status, I think it's always good to give back, because that will come back to you anyway.
So if I gave you 2 million right now, how would you give back?
I'd give back. My main thing would be to do something in Ghana.
Oh wow, beautiful.
For my, because that's where I'm from. I got family there, so my main thing would to be do something there. But at the same time, a lot of that money would go to invest to make further money in the future for my family and for the people there.
Is there any projects you have in mind what you'd love to do in Ghana, hypothetically? Like any visions or?
100%. Like in Ghana, they got a problem with like fast fashion, for example. Like when we send over charity clothes, like, you know, that can't sell in the charity, like charities and things like that. However, say for example, we sent over 10,000 items in a crate or container, whatever. Probably about 4,000 of them would be usable, but then you got 6,000 that are fully 6,000 of them will be like you can't really use them. So all they get done with them is they get put in the landfill. And there's literally like mountains of clothes, and because of like in Ghana, right now, like piles of clothes, and like they're just waste, and they go into the oceans, they go into the seas. So like long term, right now it might not affect you, and you might think, oh, that's Ghana, it's not here. Yeah. But long term, that will affect us. So if we don't look at that now, then maybe not our generation, but future generations, I feel they will suffer. So I definitely like to do something around that to help.
I think it's dope that you have the mindset of like you want to make money, but want to not even go back to home and reinvest that there. I think that's a dope mindset to have. Like, what about you? If you had 2 million, what would you do?
That's a fantastic question. My main thing is the forgotten people. My one's close to home. Like just naturally, I'm born here. I feel like addictions ran in my family. So it's just figuring out, I've always looked at homeless people and been like, what makes for you? How did that happen? And I would have always spoken to them. And I don't really think, I said it to you last time, I was like, I don't really think you should give them £10, you should give them 10 minutes. Just give them 10 minutes of encouragement. Even if it's not 10 minutes of direct help, there's got to be a better way of
But wouldn't the homeless person's, but just to challenge you on that then, you say give 10 minutes of your time, in idea that sounds nice, but do you think in practicality that works?
I feel like straight away asks come before anything. I need this first, and I need to get this, and I need this for tonight, and then overall I need a job, and blah, blah, blah. And then even if you saw it on TikTok, you're like, oh, let's set up a GoFundMe and just get this person sorted. The reason why when you fall apart, or when you've had your heart broken, or if you lost a job, you've fallen out with your friends, you've got enough in your support network to be like, okay, you can fall apart for like 5 minutes, but you can't really stay there for too long. I feel like for these people, they just don't have that one person that believes in them to be like, come on, Riyad, you're better than that. You don't have to keep on drinking. You don't have to keep on smoking. They've got maybe the wrong people around them, or no one at all. When you've got one person that believes in you, then you can now believe in yourself. You've got two. And it automatically starts like a chain of events of...
Like a domino, innit?
I've spoken to some of them. These guys can ride motorbikes. They've come from great jobs. Yeah, you're listening to what they would have done before, and you're there like, wow, you're fantastic. I can't ride a motorbike. Like, what do we do?
But do you not find there's something humbling in that, knowing that these people
could happen at any minute?
Well, once maybe that's what happens. It's so interesting. So I do sometimes look at like homeless people. I'm like, in their 20s, they could have just been me, partying, having good fun, doing a thing.
Better off. You never know. That's what I mean.
Their story is always so. It's such a given. So it would have been like, say, a foster kid that didn't have a family house, and they finally got given a house by the government. They didn't know how to manage their money. We've all been there. They missed rent a couple of times, or they had too many parties, or whatever it is. Now they finally got their freedom, and now they're homeless. That makes complete sense. Or it would have been a guy that had his partner. The partner got the house, and now he's on the streets and he's got nothing. Completely viable. Makes complete sense. And you're there like, right, where do you actually start from now? With no phone, with no shower.
Yeah, I agree.
With no gym membership, with no little things that like, you should probably get yourself to a library, but where do you actually... Have you ever gone without a phone? And you're thinking, right, now how do I get one now that I've got nothing? It's almost
I have
impossible.
entertained that thought in my head, like, okay, if I was homeless today, how would I... Like, has anyone thought this before?
Yeah,
like,
I was like, I'll get myself... I'll make sure I've got my gym membership, I'll go to the library.
What about yourself?
Mine's like... I've got faith in my mindset, innit, that I built up. So I think even if you took everything off me right now, even though it won't be nice, it's like, I know I can't stay there too long. I can't stay there too long. I know that I don't think someone's going to come, like, you know, like if, for example, that's what you wanted to do, help them. I don't think someone's going to come and help me. I need to work out how I'm going to help myself right now. So that would be my mindset. And
without saying it though, like think of how you at your worst, depressed, like some people don't shower for a week, or they can't make it out the house, or they just about scrape together like a meal a day. How did you get yourself from that to back to strength? Was it through people? Was it through knowing that you're better yourself?
Through my worst, it was definitely like people, like the people I had around me, and they wouldn't even know that. Like even if I just went around to a close one's house just for a chat, even a chat completely random about nothing at all, but that little chat there could have just uplifted me that day. So my environment at the time, and luckily enough I do have like a good support network, definitely helped me. And I think my mum as well, like if I never had my mum, then I don't know, innit? But like I just look at her sometimes, and that's all I need to keep going. That's all I need to keep to get me to where I need to go.
Like, shout out to mums.
My mum's a hero, man, honestly. I feel that one. I've definitely thought about, like, one of my dreams when I'm older is to write stories and books and like novels, and I've definitely thought of writing a homeless novel. And I've always wanted to write about a man's first day of homelessness, where he's optimistic. He's like, okay, this should be only a couple weeks. I should have some friends that can help me out.
But no, like critical addiction.
Like his mindset's okay. He goes, okay, listen, in life things happen, and I just really like to explore that process of, it all clicked one day. I was walking through Leicester City and someone goes, you got change? I said, he went, have you got, and I said no, and he done it. And he walked off. It's like he's so used to people saying no. I'm like, wow. I wonder how optimistic he used to ask it to versus how now. And I wanted to write a story of like
Daniel.
He would
never ever be
that £1 Dan guy.
£1 Dan will never be disheartened by enough.
Never disheartened. But then I wanted the book to end in a tragedy. Like, it doesn't, no happy endings. And I feel like in a lot of cinema and literature nowadays, there's always a happy ending. I used to love when it used to be a bit of like a dark, like a Shakespearean tragedy. I think we've lost that kind of beauty in cinema and stories. But I feel like a man would be a great way. First day homeless, optimistic, and through time and interesting philosophical dialogues with other homeless people, it just ends in nihilism. And
There's a YouTube channel for it. It's called Soft White Underbelly, and it's a guy in LA that's on the beat, and he just talks to all these different pimps, crack dealers, crackheads, all of them, everything in between. So they're all on, I think it's Skid Row, is that right? Yeah, so he just talks and he follows, and he'll check back in with them 3 months later, and they might have gotten better, probably have gotten worse, but then he'll do it again. And it's just interesting to see, even when you do have someone asking you all the right questions, what you just said, and even what you said about your podcast, you might not realise it there and then in the moment. You've just received the information, but then as you're going for a walk, it would hit you, and you might have had a bit of an epiphany, and you might just do better later on. So
when do you feel like you two get your epiphanies the most? What are you doing, and what
always the most mundane thing? Either at the gym, in the shower,
or the gym. I get some epiphanies.
Yeah, I feel like my head's on fire when I'm in the gym. It feels like all the thoughts come to me at once, and then I just process it. And then you've got 5 minutes and you have to drop it, and there's a clock, fortunately, like right in front of me. So I'm there, like, go through this horrible thought, even whatever it is that you don't want to be thinking about, the person you're jealous of, whatever it might be, and then you're going to have to let it go. And it does help. I'll leave the gym feeling fine. I've gotten well versed in this. I've practiced it, but
No, I think, again, it could be anywhere, but I do have a lot through meditation, because I like to come back. This is something I picked up as well over the last couple of years. It's a habit that sometimes I need to.
How long do you meditate for? I just watched a podcast.
Only like 10 to 15 minutes, to be honest, and I'll just do like a guided one. But for me, like, I know
it's probably top to bottom.
Like, I'll just put on a guided meditation and just listen to it. It just depends what it is, and like however I'm feeling, I sort of know which one to go to. Like, I've just got like a playlist of them. But for me, like, I know when my life's a bit hectic and it's back to back, rapid. If I just take 15 minutes of my day, which I would have spent, I don't know, scrolling TikTok or some dumb shit, you know what I mean? I'll come back, and when I come out that meditation, everything's so simple. It doesn't seem like there's all these
When you're
problems.
in the midst of meditation, what do you see? What do you feel? Like, do you look to the future? Do you look to the past? Do you examine the present?
Yeah,
what do you do?
I do. I think I don't know if you can get good at meditation. I just feel like I've got more better with myself, and I can be present for longer. Maybe you don't get good, maybe you can be present for longer, but I am present quite a lot of the time. But when I drift either to the future or the past, I do find myself quite quick that I can notice, and I can come back to now. So
negative feelings are normally sitting in the future. You got worry, in the future, and you've got guilt and whatever in the past, and you normally just sit in one of them, and you're trying to change.
That's an interesting perspective, because I see the past as romantic and the future as optimistic.
Really? Okay, nice. That's so funny. Yeah,
the past has to be romanticized. I genuinely believe. I would say I'm definitely a romantic thinker. Take anything from my life, the worst situation, I can turn it into a narrative of beauty. You know, like I said many times before, when my dad died at 13, I just look at it like, a main character in a story. He loses his family at the beginning, and he has to go off. That's how I see it. I'm like,
what did he do at the end?
Yeah. In my meditation is just writing in my journal, and I love it. I just really love it, and I narrate my life. That's all it is. Like, today, Riyad, and the past is just a beautiful thing. And the past, I've said this so many times, I'm a strong believer in this, the past can always save your future, because you only live one moment once. When you reflect, you're living that moment twice now. It's kind of like when an athlete watches their game over again, they start to notice, I could have been positioned here, I could have done this. And this is why meditation reflection is so good. You get to relive moments 2 times over, 3 times over. But it's bad once you start doing it 15 times, because you start distorting your past. You start to, what's the quote? If you say a lie so many times over, you start to believe it's true. Yeah. And I've noticed that about my own past. There's many things I've lied about. I'm like, come on, Reg, that didn't actually happen. You know what the truth is. And we're saying all of this, and imagine all this gold we're extracting from meditation. Imagine if you've never done it or never reflected. You see how much we just now are leaving on the table. So I hope from people watching this, if you don't, meditation can come in many forms. You don't have to be a Buddha. You don't have to be Shakespeare with the pen. You could be in the gym. I know a lot of people find that meditation. But it's definitely one of those things that keep you present. That's probably the best way to encapsulate it. But in meditation, what makes you finish meditation? Is it an intuitive feeling like, okay, I'm done now? Or is it like, when do you know when it's finished?
When the guided meditation stops.
Okay, it's actually got
but time. Like, to be honest, sometimes it's not like though, because sometimes, say I've got the 15 minutes on, sometimes I do realise 15, but as I said, sometimes I drift off. So sometimes I get up about half an hour later and I realise that I've been thinking, but I'm quite, what's the word? I'm quite aware. Like, even it might feel like I fell asleep, but really I'm aware of what I was thinking of them 15 minutes maybe after, when the actual meditation had finished. I'm quite, like, I remember quite a lot. And even now, as you said, like, I've only just now started actually journaling what I meditate about and what I see.
Nice.
Because, have you ever been to Reiki?
Reiki?
Yeah.
In Leicester?
No, like, in general.
Oh, no, what's Reiki?
Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it, yeah.
No, I've never heard of it.
I don't even know how to explain it now. I wish you knew what it was. But at the same time, like,
try your best.
So how I describe it, this is what happens when I go to
How do you
Reiki.
spell it first of all?
Reiki. So
I've never heard of it,
So basically, I've got a Reiki healer who I go to in Leicester. So I go in there, I sit down, and essentially I meditate for about 15 minutes, but no guides. There's just music on in the background, and what she does is go through all my chakras. So
so she's like a spiritual healer?
Yes, essentially. So when like she says, like, look, I'm just gonna go out now, I know that's time for me to get up now. So when she comes back in, she'll tell me what she saw in each chakra, and I'll write that down.
Oh, serious?
Yeah, but it's like quite in depth, and you might listen to this and think, that's rubbish, but try it once, I guarantee you won't not believe in it.
What kind of notes does she make about each? So you've got your mind and your
heart. So like, she'll be like, start off with the crown chakra and like what she saw there, like
if you're carrying a lot there.
If you're carrying a lot there, if you're vibing, if you're orbing, or like if there's any blockages and things like that, like she'll tell me things like that, and then she'll tell me like certain things she'll say though. It might be something random, like
it's not
a boat or something, but a boat could be significant and something that's happening in my life at that time. So man, it's just like spiritual healing, I think, and just learning about myself. I learned a lot about myself through Reiki.
You sound very mindful. Like, you've been practicing mindfulness. I've been looking at this thing about meditation. It's like you're very aware of every single fibre of your being, every atom in your body, and it releases you completely. So it means that you realise that nothing really exists, that anything that you are doing, you lose like a lot of... what's the word? Like, you don't put so much bounds on everything that you're doing so much. You take the pressure off yourself when you realise that this is all just gonna happen anyway. It's almost
in literature, there's a famous author, Michel Proust, and he wrote something quite well known. It's called the Proustian spiderweb. And it goes, when you meditate and you reflect and you come one with yourself, you're actually in your mind, you've just created a spider web of your life. Now, when you feel like something land on your spider web, you feel the vibration, you feel the pluck, like you know something's wrong, you know? And it goes, what someone should do when they're young is build their own spider web, come so in touch with it. So if anything that lands on it, anything that, even opportunity could be like a fly that lands on it. That's food, take opportunity, go get it. So the Proustian spider web, if anyone is out there, it's a really interesting concept to live into.
You know why? Because what you just said, the self-awareness and being in everything, it makes anyone's absence or presence.
And do you know why it's doubly more beautiful? It's because a spider creates its own web. No one gives a spider a web. So it's like your own web. You have to create it. You can't, no one can just insert it and say, okay, this is how life, now this is the navigation. No, like you write your own map.
That's even better.
You know?
Because if you define it, that means, I saw something ages ago and this really set my brain free. It was, you're not the voice inside your head, you're the only one that hears it. So all these terrible things, especially after I drink, the next day I would have felt so much shame about anything that I overshared or what I did or whatever. And I was like, everyone thinks I'm an idiot. Oh, that was so stupid and whatever. Everyone's thinking about it today. I was the only one twisting myself up with all of these thoughts. And I was like, you actually make your own reality. You can go out today into the world as normal and you can define what bothered you or not. You don't have to be embarrassed by anything because you decide if you're embarrassed or not. You decide if anything was embarrassing or not.
Strength, I would say a characteristic of strength is being able to interpret. If you could, everything in life is interpretation, everything. Yeah. There's nothing in your world that you do that isn't a matter of interpretation. Yeah. And I always say, if you read literature and you read books and you read stories, it gives you the ability to interpret.
Everything. I think that's what our generation are big on doing.
You need to narrate your life.
Yeah, but if you look at from generation to generation, this is only my observation from recently, so from having immigrant parents and then having parents as disciplined as ours and then not really understanding why they did what they did and why we're left with empaths and narcissists and everything else in between. And we blamed ourselves, so we found our own source of confidence.
What do you mean by that?
That's
in the
all
sense
that everyone's...
of, like, you're more educated than your parents now, and there's like a...
Do you know how people say that my parents... So
connection?
everyone in therapy will probably bring up, it's because your mum did this, or your dad abandoned you there,
everything relates back to some traumatic situation.
Everyone is a traumatised child. At the moment. Anyone that I speak to, they're like, you can read that.
What a weird perspective to have.
I've noticed it with so many people. Like, counselling and everything is a big thing now, and they're like, I'm going to counselling now because of the people that didn't go to counselling, that now acted, now I internalise why I've got abandonment issues. Boys don't really know their attachment style. If you ask any female right now what's your attachment style, I'm 90% certain they'll be able to tell me.
Do you know what's interesting? Because I find in childhood you get a lot of traumatic situations, but I find childhood so freeing to think about. Because I'm like, I had no control over this.
It's true.
Everything that happened between I was born,
this is a nice perspective 15, as well.
I never
romanticise your past.
How was I meant to know what's going on? I think it's an example of, okay, I think we live in a hustle culture, grind culture. We have to work hard, be this, be strong, be more than the average human being. But you can't take adult standards and apply it to the child Tej, the child Dion, the child Riyad. You can't do that. Because if the 13-year-old Riyad was to step in front of me now, how can I ever hold him to the standards I am living now to that? I'll just be like, you're just a kid. But we don't view ourselves as this. We need to romanticize again. And romanticize doesn't mean it's necessarily that is reality. But it's just interesting how people are so hard on their own childhood.
Bringing it back to, that's where knowledge is power. Understanding why you did certain things. The epiphanies that I have are so lovely now. When I look back on my past and my childhood, because I'll be like, that's why you did that. It was nothing wrong or anything else. And it'll make sense in a very nice way because I gave myself the tools and the language to be like, okay, that's what was actually going wrong. But what does knowledge is power mean to you? Because I've really broke apart. You gave me that one bit in my head and I was thinking, right, what does
that actually mean? The quote comes from Michel Foucault, a French philosopher who was basically obsessed with the idea of power. And he said knowledge is power.
What is power to you?
But is knowledge power though?
Knowledge is power. Okay, we can really
What
break
if you
this
don't
down.
use
Yeah, that's what I've
So
spent this morning
let's break
doing.
it down. So I'll get the ball rolling, I guess. Knowledge is power to me is, if you don't know something and I know something, I have power over you. Say for example, I know that your wife is cheating. You don't know that. I can somehow take that narrative and use it as power over you. I have knowledge over something that you don't. If you take it a second step level, if I'm an employer and I've got employees, I worked at Nike in Leicester. This is what happened a lot of the time. I don't care, I'm atting them. The managers will know all the procedures. They'll never tell the employees how the procedures are.
Okay.
The managers will always have power over the employees. Yeah. The minute the employees start learning the procedures, the management feel threatened because it's a clash of power now. We know what you know. That knowledge alone has elevated you. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
If you're my manager and I work for you, and I go out and I learn the company and come back to you, our positions don't change, but the power has changed essentially in a way, you know? Yeah. But then knowledge is power in the sense of, for creativity, you can't create without knowledge. And so, wow, like when I really think about this quote, it can go into so many different depths. But yeah, that's where I'll stay for now, and then throw that out. What do you, any
So I think
branches?
So what power to me is control. Have you read the 48 Laws?
Yeah, of course.
Power? Yeah,
it's a fantastic book.
So our instinct is to be able to control people. That's why you feel powerless when someone that you love isn't listening to you. You feel you have no control over them, even if it's something that's really great for their own good. You feel powerless. You feel so rubbish, not knowing that I can't help this person. Yeah, just out of lack of control. I'd spin it and say that intelligence is power. I thought intelligence is your ability to apply it in a great way. Knowledge is knowledge. I can read all the books, but with intelligence, being able to question those systems, the whole structures of everything. Now I have some kind of control over what can happen next.
Knowledge isn't just to question. It can actually be to maneuver.
Yeah. Also,
like if you are, again, in a workplace where progression is possible, if you become knowledgeable, you become much more powerful. But not in the knowledge of what books say, facts. There is something called social intelligence. Okay. If you can become knowledgeable about human behaviors, human nature, even eye contact, body language, the slightest, what certain words mean, or when someone
using
talks...
someone's name.
Yeah, like the way, even someone goes, if there's a really great book out there, I'm going to put the cut here, yeah? Okay, it's called Reading People. Okay. It's a lawyer book from the 90s, and I've read it like twice over. It's brilliant. And it was basically talking about social intelligence and how people, for some reason, they think emotional intelligence is the top. Social intelligence, then emotional intelligence. That's a form of power. If I know how if I know how humans behave, you don't, and I know how, and you are a human, I can work you a little bit. True. Just like how TikTok, I think Rayan said this on the last episode. He said, you know when you refresh, there's a gambling, you know the circle? Yeah. That's a gambling circle. It's purposely put there to make you feel like you're on a jackpot. That's why you refresh and wait for the new one. It's no different to doing this. Yeah. The jackpot lever. And what I'm trying to say is that that's a dopamine rush. Where does dopamine rushes come from? Manipulation of how the human brain works. Okay. You see what I'm trying to say? Yeah. If you take that concept and apply it to daily life, you could turn into a bit of a psycho. Yeah. But books like 40 Laws of Power, Art of Seduction, the 33 Laws of War, the 50th Law, the Prince Machiavelli, the Court of...
Just a book called The Psychology Book. It was just one that I picked up and it blew my mind. Actually knowing that we're all wired very similarly and everything that we do is very much a given. Everything makes perfect sense as to why people behave the way that they do. Yep. Yeah.
And to take it one step deeper then, power also is the confidence to step above what the norm is. I think power is in that sense. It's so interesting we get onto power, because I literally just finished a book, and it's probably the second greatest book I've ever read. The first one is still Vincent van Gogh Letters, but the second one is Nietzsche's The Will to Power. Yeah. And I just finished it, and he was trying to say that all human behavior is motivated by one thing. We all have a will to some power. Everything is explained by power. For example, if you do something for me, I have power over you in a sense. No, how did it go? It was really interesting. Okay, if I say thank you to you, thank you so much for helping me, I'm aware that I have power over you because you just done something for me. Even though I might have given you money, you're still in service to me. But someone who keeps going, thank you, no worries, really, thank you so much, no, honestly, thank you. You're like, all right, I get it. It's because they're so hyper aware that you are in their pocket. It's a form of rejection of power, you know? And I was like, wow. So being gratitude is a form of revenge, he was trying to say. Yeah. Really interesting. Oh,
it's playing on the word revenge as well, yeah.
Yeah. Guy, how you think though?
It's interesting,
like, bro, how you
so I enjoy thinking.
Like, it's sick though, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people think like that, like deeply. Like,
it's got a lot of truffles in life that you'll just give to people as well. Be like, look what I found out. This is great.
I think it's true though. Even if you find someone's wallet on the floor and you give it to them, there's two forms of power you can exercise there.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all power.
Yeah.
If I give it to them, I feel power and being the man, the hero of society, giving back the wallet. Or if I take it, it's power. I'm that guy. I don't give a F about them. I'm walking off with their wallet. Yeah. Power is in every direction. Even this podcast is a form of me trying to attain power. I feel like we can have great conversations. I know interesting people. Yeah. There's obviously incentives in case this podcast grows. But let's be honest, it's a form of my will to power. Yeah. And Nietzsche, he gets a bit too deep in it. He basically says morality is a form of power. You know, if it's like, if Tej is a really strong person, she's confident, she's funny, she's charming, well, she is anyway, she's beautiful, she's all of these things, how do I have power over her? How? By making her feel terrible for being that way, by asserting morality. It's not good to be confident and loud and strong in the room. Be a good girl and sit down. Okay. I haven't punched you or nothing. I used morals to use power. Yeah, I can get what he's saying. Morals is a form of power. That's why he wrote a book called Beyond Good and Evil. And I can carry on if you want. Or okay, so he was basically talking about Christianity. And obviously, I know what TikTok's like. There's always that one guy that comments, goes, "You're missing this out, you're missing that out." Of course, bro. The book was like 700 pages, man. I can't. But the basic concept is this. He basically said, you know, in Shakespeare, we all learnt this. Your tragic flaw leads to your downfall, essentially, right? So whatever makes you feel strong could actually be the very thing that is your downfall. So, for example, Othello is strong and brave and loving, but that's his downfall because he's too strong and loving. He trusts everyone, and what happens? Iago manipulates and stuff like that. The crab hardened by its biggest defense is his biggest. Exactly. But that's a form of decadence. Okay. What was I've got it in my phone, but the crab hardened by the whole world, something. Its very form of defense is what stops it being quick. I'll put the quote under here somewhere. Yeah, I promise. But long story short, what Nietzsche was basically saying is society used to be master and slave. The Romans as the strong and the weak are the slaves. It's a very top-down 1-2. Yeah, superiors and inferiors. How does the inferiors become superiors? They can't fight physically against the Romans because they have legions, but it's impossible to invade Rome. So he says the Christians created something called morality by basically saying, so the Romans are pagans. They think human strength comes from inside yourself. You are Hercules. You are a form of strength. And if you are the strong, exercise it. Be strong, you know? But the Christianity said, no, the strong man isn't innate. You have to aspire to be a strong man through getting closer to God. Okay. So they took strength and made it an ideal now, not something you're born with. That's the biggest split. It's really complicated anyway. But he's saying, all you have to do is tell the Roman what he's doing is bad, and then he'll stop doing it. And that's how Roman Empire essentially fell. People think it was wars, but Christianity killed the Roman Empire off by just making them think how everything is worked is bad. And what we do is good. We're harmless. We can't fight. We haven't got an army. So we're the good people in society. And if you start telling everyone that you're good and everyone's bad, it's all a matter of whispers. Yeah, so morality, I see what you're saying, because if you are a strong person, the morals can definitely make you question your own strength, in a sense. It's like, oh, I feel bad that I'm cleverer than people. Oh, I feel bad that I've got more money than some people. Oh, I feel bad that I'm the funniest in the room.
If I told you were bad, how would you react to it? Or how would you feel about it?
I would literally ask you this question. What do you mean by bad? What makes you say that? What's your idea of bad? Because bad, there's no such thing as bad. There's no such thing as a criminal. There's no such thing as anything. These are all social constructs. This relates back to Foucault. I quite agree with him on this point. What is a criminal? Is a social construct. Yeah. Get rid of prisons and justice. There's no such thing as a criminal.
Like they tied
Perspective,
law
isn't
with
It is all
religion.
subject. It is, and it's interesting when someone goes, "That's bad." Okay, I just watched a film recently. Please, you two have to watch this. It was made in the 1960s by a famous surrealist director. His name was Louis Brunel, and the whole film is about. It's called The Exterminating Angel.
Okay.
It's 20 guests in a dinner party, really rich bourgeois palace. They're in a dinner room, they have dinner, whatever. They sit in the living room, 20 people in the living room, and they can't leave the room for 4 days, 5 days. Nothing is stopping them. There's no barriers, nothing. They get to leave, and there's always something that distracts them. There's always someone. It will say to someone, "Are you coming?" But why do you want to go now? Like, what's going on? For 4 days, in the end, they turn into savages. They want to kill each other and fight each other, and it's all about herd mentality. They had etiquette and rules and morals about respecting each other all the time and coming as a collective. If one person leaves the room, it goes against the collective. So what happens? They all rather suffer as a group than one that decides to go. And it made me think, every time in my life now, I'm like, if I just do it, Riyad, leave the room. Because when you watch this film, you feel so angry. You're like, why don't they just leave the room? Like, why can't they just get up and leave? Why are they all suffering?
You can apply the same to your life. With everyone that you know, like, why don't you just do the thing that you
just leave the room?
Yeah,
just leave.
Just go.
Please watch this film.
Yeah. Nah, definitely I'm gonna watch that. But you see, my argument to that is, and it's not always been like that, but for me, one, I'm young and like no responsibility really now. But like, what's the worst that's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Like, even if I do something, and again, it's all about perspectives. If it goes wrong, that's a perspective, or I might look at that as a lesson, a downfall, or I need to learn that. But even if it went wrong, then is it really that bad? You know what I mean? I'm still alive. I learned from it. I can move on. I can do better now next time.
Yeah.
So,
but when you say it went wrong, is it wrong because what you imagined it to be, it didn't fulfill that?
probably. That's
So if
probably
you
where
adjust your imagination, it's not wrong.
Yeah, it's your expectation.
Exactly.
Interpretation.
Exactly. I think everything's perspective. You can always break it down and look at it in a different way. But for me, I don't really look at. I believe that everything's supposed to happen. I don't think anything's an accident. I don't think anything just happens because I think there's a reason it happens. I just may not see it right now, but later on I will. So even if something goes wrong, let's say, I know in my head I think, cool, I might be pissed off now, I might be a bit angry now, but keep going, you'll see why that had to happen.
Boy, but it's so hard saying that to yourself when things actually do go wrong in the moment.
Of course, it's hard. I know I can say it right now, but I know that sometimes I might deal with it the way I'm saying, but sometimes I might be stuck in a little rut for a while.
Remind yourself that this is the worst that I'll feel about it, because I'll always get better at getting, when I get back to this place ever again, when things go wrong, you're there like, okay, this is fine. It's only gone wrong right now in my head because I've not figured out how to deal with the thing yet.
100%.
Okay, then that's how knowledge is power. Again, if you find knowledge about what situation just went on, and you become knowledgeable about your life, reflection is a form of knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Because you're gaining knowledge about what's just happened in your life, and it's a form of empowerment again.
Yeah,
You see what I'd say on that as well, yeah? Because I've heard it a lot in my own life, and I only started thinking about it quite recently when I watched a YouTube video. So you know how, like, you say sometimes in life, when you get kicked down, you just get straight back up. Like, I don't know if you've heard that, but I've heard that loads. Like, people
times.
say when you get kicked down, just get straight back up. But I was listening to a guy called Tim Grover, and
trained Jordan and Kobe
and all that. Yeah. And he said that actually what you should do is, you see when life kicks you down or whatever it is, you get swept off that path, stay there for a bit, stay down there,
Feel that
and
way.
realise what it was that got you there. Because if you just get back up, then you might just probably do the same thing again and fall. But if you actually notice,
yourself
exactly. So if you actually stay there now, notice how you got there, exactly what actions led you to that point. Now, when you get up, you're automatically better than when you got put down, and you're more than
it's
likely
almost like
not
the
going to
down
make that.
was an advantage, because you're gonna down there, you're gonna gain so much when you come back up in it. Without, as long as you give yourself the chance to do that, you have to stay there for a minute and then come. Yeah, you're right.
So I thought that was a good, different way, because I've always thought, oh look, if something knocks me down, I gotta get straight back up and deal with it. But now, maybe I don't have to do that. Maybe I should just reflect on it. Maybe I should see where I went wrong. Maybe I should see now how can I be better, and then.
But do you feel like there is some moments in life where you do get knocked down, but you just have to keep it moving? You can't wallow in it too much, because I've noticed that sometimes. Where like,
try and pick apart.
pick apart every situation. It's drove me crazy, because I'm like, remember, say I've got my journal, I'm like, okay, this minor thing happened. I'm breaking it down in 20 different ways, and I realize the simplest answer is, it's not that deep. You know?
See, I relate that back to, I listen to Jim Rohn quite a bit, and one of the things he says is,
oh, he's so good,
man. He's
got
sick.
A quote from him for your finger.
When I
his
listen
voice
to this
is so
guy, I can learn that way, but he says, like, you know, when someone plants a crop or like a farm or something like that, sometimes it just rains, sometimes it's just hurricanes, and there's nothing you can do. Your crop's gone and everything's done. Sometimes you just lose. Like, there ain't no reason, you can't break it down, and it's this, that, and the other. Life is life. Sometimes you just lose, and that's what it is.
And if I told you, you know, like Eastern philosophy, like Buddhism, it all comes from that mentality. They lived by the river and they harvest a lot, and what happened? Yeah. Sometimes it'll rain, sometimes harvest wouldn't come, and that's where you get that mentality of one with nature, go one with life. Just thanks to the harvest season. It's really interesting you brought that up. You cracked it nail on the head, literally. So you just had a spark in my head for a second, but you're right, sometimes you do have to go with it. I think it's nice when like Western mentality is very much individual mentality. You've got a goal, set your soul there, achieve greatness. And Eastern mentality is much more community, together as a team, go one with life. And I feel like if you can merge them two together, a form of power and individuality, power and community, you can is leadership qualities together in that sense. But you definitely have to merge. I think people should read Western stuff and Eastern stuff.
Definitely.
I mean, all stuff really.
But it's interesting what you're saying about let's say Western people, the drive culture, hustle culture.
Oh yeah,
like,
hustle culture.
Where's that even coming from? Because we're like an island here. We're always doing it by ourselves. We get a lot of worth from our productivity. I feel like if you're not productive, if you're not working, you feel pretty worthless.
I think it's quite interesting that we live in the age of technology, but we're working more than ever. Because it's a bit counterproductive historically, isn't it? Yeah.
I want to bring up AI, but it's not the time right now.
I think
you've done it. You've covered it.
I've done it like 13 episodes now. So, but AI is relevant. You have to talk about AI. It's our world. I think I'm a bit optimistic about AI. I've said that in my previous episode. To this point, I haven't been released yet. But
I saw something and it was like AI learns from us right now. So whatever we are right now, if we show that we are people that cancel each other.
Yeah, but people should look at AI and go, if anyone who looks at AI goes, wow, look how incredible, intelligent and clever it is, you're looking into a mirror. Like they are just you.
They're learning everything. All behaviors.
And AI is a human.
It's learning from TikTok and everything. So if we're giving a lot of our attention to watching foul videos, that's what AI thinks the world is. And that's what it replicates as well.
And it also shows it a lack of appreciation for history. Like, think about less than 50 years ago. People were doing everything manually, pretty much. And within 50 years, AI, like, humans are incredible. Humans are my favourite animals on earth.
I don't like history.
I love history.
I know you do.
I love history.
You have to.
But you like to learn from the past in order to. In my head, I'm like, I wonder what would happen if all of history was wiped and we started again without learning. I feel like we learn a lot of the rubbish as well. So we sit in the past, like how our generation. This is gonna be a bit too controversial. Sees race might not be the same as what we're taught to learn.
No, I agree. I think it's a very racially viewed. We definitely live in a.
It's the biggest conversation in my head constantly. I'm there like, what is showing great understanding and what is taking it too far.
Yeah, when I see people first go to race as a matter of discussion about society, race this, race that, I'm like, they don't know history because race.
Not educated.
That's it.
But also, it's not my experience as well. So I should know. You're right. Like, history has got a very good place there, but I just always wonder what would happen if we didn't know what happened for these, say, 400 or even more than that. How would our behaviours change with each other? How would we be able to?
So basically, you're arguing that if we used to start history again from the beginning,
if right now you were just born into a world where everything that has happened we don't know about just yet.
Yeah.
Well, not even just yet.
Well, I think that's a lot of our generation
how do we
today.
Go forward?
I think that's a lot of our young kids today, generation-wise. They're growing up today. How many people actually do grow up like that? They don't know their past. They don't know what's happening in history. The history of ideas, history of philosophy. People don't even understand that philosophy just means a love of ideas and wisdom. And how, you know how much philosophy's empowered me in a way where I can listen to people and be like, yeah, you're a rational thinker. You're an empiricist. I could tell when someone's religious straight away because they'll say stuff like they or above. And I'm like, you're religious? Yeah. It's not saying I'm some super clever guy, but it just gives you frameworks to work off. Yeah. And then when I look at today, we're in a very scientific age. You look across philosophy history, you're like, wow. Yeah. Like that comes from all the way here and we've come all the way. It's just really interesting. Damn, already? Fucking hell. Quotes. Anyone? You got your quote?
Ted, you go first.
It was for you two and it was for that title. So it was, in life, do not be a follower, always be a student. It's a Jim Rohn guy. It's a Jim Rohn quote. So question everything, do not be a lemming. I feel like up until like 20 years old, I had no idea why I did any of the things that I did until I started questioning everything around me, and I broke apart why I did all the puppet strings, like I said before, my mum and my dad was one, and my sister and my friends was one, and society and what looks great on social media was one. Started to cut apart all these things, and I was like, I don't really care about that job. I don't really care about any of these other little things. Constantly question everything, even if you're wrong, and just put it out there. You're always...
And let your intuition guide when the answer's right.
And what you said about confidence as well, always do before you're ready. Always just do it before. It'll give you a way better perspective on everything. Your reality changes.
Avoid that analysis paralysis. Yeah, completely agree. Your quote.
I don't know if it's really a quote, but I learned from a book. So there's a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
And the book.
Yeah, man. But the way I'd look at it is this, innit? Because I have to thank my uncle for this and actually then reading a book. But when I want to achieve something or I want something, and I used to say, I hope, that's dead. Because, for example, in the concentration camps, what Victor mentions in this book is the people that were in the concentration camps who hoped that one day things would get better and they'd get out, they all died. It was the people that had the absolute knowing that one day things will get better that actually survived and ended up having life after that. So there's no point me hoping that one day I get this thing that I want to achieve. I need to know fully in myself that I will get there.
What was the quote?
So it's more just like, I don't know if it's a quote. It's more just the idea of it. So it's not a quote, but it's more of the idea of it. But I think that's something
I never really thought, you've just given me something to study now. I never really thought to look at the accounts of people who were in concentration camps, because that is as much despair as you can think. And I never really thank you, bro. Like, I never really thought to do that before. Like, how would they wow, man! Like, I think there's nothing for me to add there. That's your painting. I don't want to touch it. You know. I know my quote, but every time I do this, I always stutter and I'm editing. I'm like, why don't I just read it from my phone? You know. Okay, my one is by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I've started to read Crime and Punishment. Fantastic book. Dostoevsky he's an art alone. Like, he's his own art, I would argue. But his one is, but how could you live and have no story to tell? Like, to me, that just it's just simple enough for me. Like, how could you have a story? You live, you go through so many situations. How could you not want to express and tell? Why would you not want to, like, just release your life, you know?
And also experience every part of it in that.
Even this, okay? This quote really helps me, because when my father passed when I was 13, I realised, okay, physically he's not here, but he's a part of my story. And if I was to die today and go to heaven tomorrow, and he said to me, son, before we check in your bags, did you ever talk about me? And I say to him, no. I would feel horrible for saying that. He's a part of my story. How could I not want to tell it? So every time I speak about him, even right now on this podcast as I speak about him, he's probably sitting there having a cigarette and a coffee saying, thanks for bringing me alive again. I'm part of your story. So it's really important to tell things about yourself. Even the old Dion, the old Tej, the old Riyad. How could you not want to talk about yourself? Are you not proud of your past? Are you not proud of who you used to be? And you might have seen things wrong, but it doesn't mean they were bad. Again, don't let morals get in the way. Exactly, bro. Yeah. Don't let your morals get in the way of what your standard of greatness is. Your past is great. It doesn't matter the worst thing happened. It's great. It's your story. And one more way to sum that quote up is, never judge your story, because it's not finished. If I was to watch a film with you right now and you say, oh, Riyad, it's terrible, I'd be like, is the film finished? No, don't judge it just yet. It's the same with someone's life. But rapping now. Okay. So we have to wrap up now. But yeah, it's a great. I'm gonna run this episode again. You're gonna definitely be back on again.
Yeah,
but yeah, make sure you get at his podcast page, Real Life Curriculum. Fantastic page, great content. I'm gonna spam the links everywhere. Tej again, Mrs. Something, that's for sure. I'm Riyad. You know how it is. Thank you.
Man.